Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Ultimate AFL show for season 2016. Now on this week's episode I'll be looking back at round 6 and then later on in the show looking towards round 7. There's some big games in round 7 to look at, so I'm looking forward to looking ahead to that round. But first, let's get straight into looking back at round 6. It was an interesting round. Round 6 kicked off at Etihad Stadium on Friday night between North Melbourne and the Western Bulldogs. This was first v second. It was a massive game, probably the game of the round for round 6. And, well, it started pretty evenly. The score at quarter time was 4-1 to 2-1 North Melbourne leading. They then led again by 2 goals at half-time, 5-4 to 3-4, leading the Western Bulldogs. The Bulldogs were getting a few inside 50s in this first half and moving the ball inside 50 but not getting much scoring from those inside 50s, especially goals. So that's what really let them down. And they trailed by 2 goals at half-time. They then trailed again, believe it or not, by 2 goals at three-quarter time. North Melbourne in front by 2 goals, 8-6 to 6-6. And then in the end, North Melbourne were able to hold off for the win, 9-7-61, defeating the Western Bulldogs 6-9-45. It's interesting to note the first 6 of the leading disposal getters in the game are all the Western Bulldogs. So they were getting the disposals, getting it inside 50, but just weren't able to have that forward structure and that forward presence to be able to kick goals. Not to mention there were some big men in this game that did hurt them. Waite was the perfect example. He kicked 4 goals in this game for North Melbourne, and that's really where the damage was done in the game for the Western Bulldogs. They had a good defence though in this game, but the forward structure just wasn't there and no one was really taking the marks when necessary. So that's really what the letdown was for the Western Bulldogs. North Melbourne, they stay undefeated after 6 games of football in season 2016. Like I mentioned, North Melbourne's goal kickers, Waite kicked 4, Higgins, Brown, Zeeble, Thomas and Petrie kicking singles for the Kangaroos, while the Western Bulldog goal kickers, Jong, Bontempelli, McLean, Dixon, Stevens and Dalhouse. I thought Jong played a really good game. Same with Hunter for the Western Bulldogs, while for North Melbourne, Waite, he is in absolutely superb form at 33 years of age. So North Melbourne, the only team undefeated after round 6. Saturday kicked off at Etihad Stadium between Melbourne and St Kilda. This was the 1:45 PM game. And very interesting game, this one. Melbourne led at quarter time, 5-3 to 3-4. I think that's what we really expected to be the score at quarter time, considering that Melbourne played a really good game the week before against Richmond on Anzac Day Eve. So they got off to a good start and led at quarter time. At half time, St Kilda were able to take the lead 9-9 to 8-3. And then from there, St Kilda were able to take the game away from the Demons and really surprise the Demons because, you know, they've been in great form, the Melbourne Football Club. They've been on the improve. This was a shocking game from them, and St Kilda really did put the foot down on the pedal and smash them in the end. 20-15, 135, defeating Melbourne, 15-6, 96. Not a very good game from Melbourne, and, well, they're just so poor on Etihad Stadium. It is unbelievable how poor they are on the Docklands Stadium. The goal kickers for Melbourne, Hogan, he kicked 7. That's a real positive for the club. Watts kicked 2. Frost also kicked 2. Bug, Tyson, Jones and Ked kicked singles each for Melbourne. While for St Kilda, Membry kicked 5. Rewald had a best on ground performance, kicking 3 goals as well as Bruce. Ayers kicked 2 as well as Sinclair, while Dunstan, News, Gresham, Weller and Armitage kicked singles each for the Saints in what was an impressive win by them. They needed to bounce back and put in a very good performance after the week before's game against the GWS Giants, where they didn't play very good football. In fact, it was quite disappointing what they dished up in that game. So a very good game by the Saints. Melbourne back to the drawing board, I guess. They have got a tough game coming up in round 7. So yeah, not back to the drawing board, but just need to reassess a few things. They are still one of the most exciting and improving teams, though, in the competition, in my opinion, this season. The other Saturday afternoon game was between Adelaide and Fremantle at the beautiful Adelaide Oval in Adelaide, of course, South Australia. And, of course, Fremantle going into this game without a win. No one expected them to be winless after 5 games. And, well, Adelaide were going as strong favourites in this game. And, well, they pretty much ran the game out pretty well, defeating the Dockers. The final score, Adelaide 14-13, 97, defeating Fremantle 8-16, 64. The goal kickers for the Crows, Betts kicked 4, Lynch Jenkins kicked 2, Douglas Atkins, Lyons, Smith, Sloan and McGovern kicked singles each, while for Fremantle, Walters had a good game. He kicked 3, Tabernar, Cruiser, Pavlich, Main and Griffin kicked singles each for the Dockers, who look like they are in a little bit of a rebuilding stage now after their poor start to season 2016. Should have Pavlich retired at the end of last season? I don't think he should have. I think he's obviously decided to go ahead and play again this year because, well, he feels like the body is okay for another year. He probably will retire at the end of the year, though, especially if Fremantle aren't in the premiership race anymore. So, yeah, Fremantle, they are winless after round 6, the only winless team. The Crows, big game next week. They are in good form. They had a good bounce-back win in this game after losing last week to the Hawks. They're back on the winners' board. The Saturday twilight game this round, round 6, was at Spotless Stadium between the GWS Giants and Hawthorn. Of course, Hawthorn, the last 3 games coming into this game, they've won by 3 points. Absolutely incredible. While the Giants, well, they've had 2 great wins against Port Adelaide and St Kilda and were in perfect form going into this game. And, well, you might remember I tipped them last week to win the game against Hawthorn, and they did just that, but I didn't expect this to happen. It ended up being the Giants winning 24-14, 158, defeating Hawthorn 12-11, 83. It's fair to say that they have absolutely smashed this mob, and are probably the first team in quite a long time to do so. At quarter time, they kicked 7 goals to Hawthorn's 2 goals, plus the 3 behinds that they, of course, missed shots. Absolutely incredible. I didn't expect it to be a smashing, really, and that's what it ended up being. Now, the 10 of the 11 leading disposal getters of the game were all GWS Giant players, so that just explains how smashed Hawthorn were. The goal kickers for this match, Johnson, of course, coming over from the Cats at the end of last season. He kicked 5. He's having a good impact on that club, no doubt about it. Lobb kicked 4, while Cameron, Scully, Green and Palmer kicked 3 each. You then have Whitfield, who kicked 2, and then Ward, the captain, got a single for the Giants. While for Hawthorn, Gunston, really the only shining light in this game, kicked 5 goals. Bruce kicked 3. Of course, those are the 2 players who normally get on the board every week for Hawthorn, and they did that even though Hawthorn got pretty beaten up in this game. Howe and Rioli kicked singles each for the Hawks. So Hawthorn is at the end of their premiership days. Of course, I heard a couple of nights ago on the couch on Fox Footy that Jason Dunstall said they're out of the premiership race for this year. They're not going to win the grand final. Wouldn't rule them out just yet. You know what kind of team they are. But, of course, Luke Hodge getting injured in this game and probably going to miss next week. And probably going to have to require surgery, then that's not really good news for Hawthorn. So they're battling to make it 4 premierships in a row, that's for sure, especially after this loss. But don't rule them out just yet, in my opinion. Saturday night, there were 2 games like there normally is every week. And I'll start with the first game at the MCG between Richmond and Port Adelaide. Of course, 2 teams who have been heavily under the pump the last couple of weeks. Richmond haven't won a game since round 1 against Carlton. Not very good for the Damien Hardwick coached side. And for Port Adelaide, well, they haven't been in the best of form at all. So both teams, this was a must-win game for them, but only, of course, one team could win, and that was Port Adelaide. They were pretty good in this game, and Richmond were not too good at all in this game, to be quite honest. Port Adelaide really showed that they are still in a chance to make the top 8 this year with this win. The final score being Richmond 8-11-59, defeating Port Adelaide 13-16-94. The goal kickers for Richmond, Brewell kicked 3, Grigg kicked 2, while Vickery, Martin, Deledio kicked singles each for the Tigers. Port Adelaide's goal kickers, Impey kicked 3, he had a good game. Dixon kicked 2, as well as Young and Neild, while Westhoff, Broadbent, Boak, the captain, and Cracker, coming back from a 5-game suspension, kicked singles each for the Power. So a good win there for the Port Adelaide Football Club. Just over 27,000 entering the MCG to watch the game on Saturday night. Not very good from a Richmond point of view. That's a pretty low crowd for an MCG Richmond home game. So not going good there at the Richmond Football Club, I must say. The other Saturday night game was at Simmons Stadium between Geelong and Gold Coast. This game really reminded you of Gold Coast's early days in the AFL, where they were getting smashed each and every week, or some weeks at least. This was an absolute belting. The final score, Geelong 25-18, 168, defeating the Gold Coast 7-6-48. An absolute crap display by the Suns, I tell you what. This is on the same day that GWS made a statement to the competition saying that they are in the premiership race for season 2016, yet they started a year after the Suns. Absolutely incredible, and not good for the Suns. Makes them look pretty stupid, to be quite honest with you, in my opinion. But seriously, they did not play good football at all. Geelong just absolutely smashed them, like they do at their home ground, that's for sure. So the goal kickers for Geelong, Hawkins kicked 4, Kirsten also kicked 4. You then have Motlop and Cockatoo, who kicked 3 each for the Cats. Lang, Caddy, Dangerfield kicked 2 each, while Duncan, Menzel and Vardy, Smith, Selwood kicked singles each for the Cats. You then have the Sun goal kickers. Lynch, who's having a good year on the scoreboard, that's for sure. He kicked 2 as well as Sexton. You then have Cameron, Harbrow and Lemurs, who kicked singles each for the Suns in what was a dreadful display by them. That's all I'm going to say about that game. Sunday, it all started at the Gabba between the Lions and the Swans. I watched this game from start to finish and really enjoyed the pressure that Lions applied to the Swans. They were in the game at three-quarter time, but just couldn't quite get the 4 points, even though you just think they deserve a little bit from this game, because they really did play a good game of football and really did take it up to the Swans, and credit to them. But the Swans were able to hold on and win. The final score being the Lions 14-10-94, defeated by the Sydney Swans 15-7-97. The goal kickers for the Brisbane Lions, Christian kicked 3, Pierce Hanley kicked 2, as well as Lester and Rich. You then have Bastanak, Keys, McStay, Walker and Zorko, who kicked singles each for the Lions. You then have the Swans goal kickers. Franklin got on the board with 5 goals. Hewitt, Parker kicked 3, while McGlynn kicked 2, and Heaney and Tippett kicked singles each for the Swans, in front of over 14,000 at the Gabba. The 3:20 game on Sunday was at the MCG, the home of footy, of course, between Carlton and Essendon. Well, this was an interesting game, that's for sure. No, it definitely wasn't. In fact, I didn't watch this game. I actually was watching the A-League Grand Final on Sunday, so I was watching a different code after the Lions and Swans game. Was keeping up to date with it though, and I'm kind of glad I didn't watch this game, because this seemed to be one of the worst of all time, or at least in the last decade or so, because there was no goals in the second quarter. That's unbelievable to say, but there was no goal in the second quarter kicked by either side. There was about half a dozen behinds in this game in the second quarter, but there was no goal in the second quarter, so that's unbelievable to say. I can't work it out. How did two AFL sides go a quarter, 20 minutes plus time on, without a goal kicked? It's beyond me. I don't know how to even explain that, especially if some international person asked me, how is there no score in the second quarter? They might think it's soccer with how this game was played. It was absolutely shocking. But anyway, I'll just go through the quarter by quarter scores. Carlton led at quarter time 3-1 to 1-1 in the halftime break. Carlton still led 3-7 to 1-4. So no goal kicked in the second quarter. It then opened up a little bit in the third quarter. There were a couple of goals kicked, and the score was 5-9 to Essendon 4-8. And then in the end, Carlton were able to hang on and win. It was an interesting game in the second half. It was quite close. So you have to kind of give credit to both teams for that. But the final score was Carlton 10-12-72 to Essendon 8-9-57. The goal kickers, there were goal kickers in this game. Carlton's goal kickers, Wright kicked 2, Thomas Jones, Lamb, Gibbs, Murphy, Armfield, Sumner and Phillips kicking singles each. Dale Thomas starting to improve his game a little bit. I'm liking his performance at the moment, especially after his poor start to the season and in the NAB Challenge. Very poor start there, but good to see him getting a goal and playing some better footy, that's for sure. The Essendon goal kickers, Brown, Parrish kicked 2, while Fantasia, Pockinghorn, Danaher and Grimley kicked singles each for the Bombers in front of over 43,000, more there than what there were at the Richmond game on Saturday night. The final game on Sunday and the final game for the round was at Domain Stadium in Perth between the West Coast Eagles and Collingwood. Of course, Collingwood coming off a really good win on Anzac Day against Essendon. West Coast, bad performance against the Swans. They need to put that in the bag and get a win here at home. They got off to a good start. The first quarter score was 6-4 to 1-1. At halftime, they still led 8-8 to 4-3, but Collingwood were just sticking around a little bit. They had a better second quarter than what they did in the first. At three-quarter time, Collingwood were in the game, 10-12 to 8-5. They were behind, but they were in the game. Didn't take the opportunity, though, and unfortunately lost the game. West Coast winning 18-16, 124, defeating Collingwood 9-8-62. The goal kickers for West Coast, Kennedy got on the board with 3. Lacrosse, Cripps also kicked 3. Lazard kicked 2, while Willingham, Redden, Natanui, Darling, Hutchinson, Gaff and Hill kicked singles each for the Eagles. Cox got on the board once again this week with 2 goals this time. You then have Moore and Broomhead, who also kicked 2. Broomhead coming back into the side after his VFL stint. So good to see him back in the side and getting on the board and making an impact. You then have Greenwood, Crisp and Blair, who kicked singles each for the Pies. So that is round 6. Let's get into the stats. Okay, time now to get into the stats after round 6. Who's leading what? Let's find out. We start with the leading goal kickers like I normally do, and Tom Lynch is probably one of the big positives for the Gold Coast Suns because he leads the leading goal kickers on 24 goals. He's having a good season so far. Lance Franklin is on second place with 23 goals. You then have Waite on third with 22 goals. Fourth is Eddie Betts on 20 goals, and then Kennedy wraps up the top 5 on 17 goals. You then have the leading disposals. Mitchell still leads the leading disposals like he did last week on 203 disposals. Lockie Hunter is the next best. What a season he's having with the Western Bulldogs. He's probably in front in their best and fairest, that's for sure. He's second on 198 disposals. You then have Lockie Neal in third on 195 disposals. Aaron Hall, who is still having a good impact in the Suns. He had a good start to the season. Not really dropping off at the moment. He is on fourth at 194 disposals. You then have Trelaw, the new Pies recruit, is on 186 disposals, wrapping up the top 5 there. You then have the leading marks. Rewald had a good game on the weekend against Melbourne. He leads the marks on 63. You then have Shaw, the next best, on 56. Kennedy is on third with 52. Boyd's on 48, level with Spur. And then finally the tackles, the leading tackles. Swallow leads the leading tackles on 52 tackles. You then have Barlow on 44, second. Ollie Wines is third on 43. You then have Mitchell and Stephen level on 42 tackles. So that is the stats. Let's get into the ladder. And here is the ladder after round 6. North Melbourne, the only undefeated side in the competition after round 6. They have won the 6 games they have played. And Geelong are now on second place after their big win against the Gold Coast Suns. The Swans are on third after their win against the Lions. The Western Bulldogs have gone down from second to fourth, considering they could have had a chance to go to the top of the table. but they haven't taken that chance. So they are on 4th place with 16 points, 4 wins, 2 losses. GWS is on 5th after that big win against the Hawks. You then have West Coast on 6th, Adelaide Crows on 7th, and Hawthorn round out the top 8. You then have Melbourne there on the borderline there on 9th. You then have Gold Coast Suns on 10th, Port Adelaide on 11th, St Kilda on 12th, Collingwood 13th, Carlton 14th. Richmond have sunk to their lowest point on 15th. You then have Brisbane Lions on 16th, Essendon on 17th, and then can you believe it, the minor premiers of last year are on 18th with no wins after round 6. Absolutely incredible. That's the ladder after round 6. Okay, time now to get into round 7, the next round of the AFL season for 2016. A big round. This one is, of course, every round is this year, that's for sure. We'll start with the Friday night game, the opening game of the round. It is between Richmond and Hawthorn at the MCG. This game starting at 7:50 p.m. And, well, a must-win game for the Tigers, that's for sure. They haven't won a game since round 1. They are really struggling at the moment and they need to get a win. And they have a bit of a chance to do so considering Hawthorn are coming off a big loss against the Giants. Now, for Hawthorn, they need to make a statement saying that they are still in the grand final race because, of, like I've said, a couple of people have ruled them out of winning the grand final this year. I haven't ruled them out. I think they're going to bounce back and win against the Tigers, but the Tigers have had the edge over them in the last couple of years, beating them in home and away games. So this should be an absolute great game. There should be a good crowd turning up for this game, that's for sure. Hawthorn is my tip. Saturday is going to be absolutely big. There are 6 games of football to be played. It is an absolute super Saturday, that's for sure. And if you're not doing anything, then you have the chance to sit in front of your TV and watch as many games as you can. It is going to be absolutely brilliant. I'm sure Fox Footy is going to get a workout this Saturday, that's for sure. So 6 live games. It all starts at the MCG between traditional rivals Collingwood and Carlton. We always love a Collingwood and Carlton matchup. This game starting at 1:45 p.m. And, well, Collingwood should bounce back after their loss against the Eagles at Domain Stadium on Sunday. I do expect it to be kind of a close game, and I do expect Carlton to take it up to the Pies, but I'm sure the Pies will be too strong and they should get on a little bit of a winning streak after this game. So Collingwood is my tip for this game. The next game on Saturday is at 2:10 p.m. at Simmons Stadium between the Cats and the Eagles. Of course, West Coast have a point to prove. They just can't win away from home at the moment. They haven't won a game away from home this season so far. They've lost at the SCG. They've also lost at the MCG against Hawthorn. They are, they're struggling to win games away from home, and that's not good if you want to make the grand final and win it. So this game at 2:10 p.m, like I mentioned, at Simmons Stadium, I think Geelong will win, especially after their result last week against the Gold Coast Suns. So the Cats is my tip. The next game is the Twilight game, 4:35 p.m. at the SCG, originally at ANZ Stadium, but of course that deal to move all games to the SCG and eliminate the ANZ Stadium from the AFL was a great decision. Swans and Essendon. The Swans should win another game. They are on fire at the moment in this season. They are 3rd on the ladder. They're looking likely to make the top 4 at this present stage. If they keep this form going, then they will make the top 4 and could possibly make the grand final. That's how good they are at the moment. Franklin, Tippett, other players as well. Parker, Kennedy, great form for the Swans this season. So Swans are my tip for that game. You then have the next game at 5:10 p.m. over at Metricon Stadium between the Gold Coast Suns and Melbourne. This will be a massive game. Of course, both teams coming off crucial losses in round 6. Of course, the Suns getting absolutely walloped by the Cats, and Melbourne, well, they just can't play on Etihad Stadium. Got a pretty good beat up against the Saints. This is a hard game to tip, I must say. I think I'm going to go with the home side, the Suns. I think the Demons, they haven't really proved that they can win away from home yet, especially away from the MCG. So this could be an interesting game. I think the Suns will win this game. I think they'll bounce back after their bad loss last week against the Geelong Cats. So the Suns is my tip for this game. Saturday night, the Dogs take on the Crows at Etihad Stadium starting at 7:40 p.m. And this will be, of course, an elimination final rematch. I'm a Dog supporter and I'm absolutely shattered about what happened last year when the Crows eliminated us from the finals pretty closely. And I tell you what, this is going to be a good game. The last time these two teams met at Etihad Stadium, the Dogs won by over 50 points against the Crows. So, yeah, going to be an interesting game, this one. I think the Dogs will win. I always tip the Dogs because I'm a Dogs supporter, but it's going to be a good game, this one. Hopefully the Dogs can bounce back after their loss to North Melbourne. It was only a 16-point loss for them. So it'll be an interesting game, that's for sure. The final game of Super Saturday, the sixth game Saturday, is at the Domain Stadium in Perth between Freo and the GWS Giants. Of course, Freo, the only winless team in the competition at the moment, and, well, they must win this game. It's as simple as that. This game's starting at 8:10 p.m. I think I'm going to go to the GWS Giants, although I kind of have a little bit of a feeling Fremantle might be able to pull off a little bit of an upset win, but the GWS really good last week against Hawthorn, and they should be able to provide the same performance and win against Fremantle this Saturday. The final two games of the round are on Sunday. The first game is St Kilda and North Melbourne on Sunday at Etihad Stadium starting at 3:20 p.m. North Melbourne should win this game and make it 7 straight wins out of 7 games. Would be absolutely incredible. They've got 2 winnable games coming up after this one that they could win, so they could be 9-0 at the end of round 9. Absolutely incredible. Would really put them in the box seat to make the grand final this season, that's for sure. So that's that game. And then the next game, the twilight game to finish off round 7, it is the Port Adelaide Football Club taking on the Brisbane Lions. Should be an interesting game, this one. I expect the Brisbane Lions to take it up to Port Adelaide. I believe Port Adelaide will win this game, though, but they might only win it by about 15 points. I think the Lions will really take it up to them. Wouldn't be surprised if we see an upset, that's for sure. So this game's starting at 4:40 p.m. and will be at the Adelaide Oval. That's round 7. And that is it for another episode of the Ultimate AFL Show. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Of course, don't forget to like, comment, share this video. Don't forget to subscribe, because if you subscribe, you get a new episode of this to your news feed every Wednesday. So thank you very much, everyone, for watching. I'm Jacob. Enjoy round 7. Bye for now.